The pregnancy test slipped from Alara's shaking hand. It fell on the cold bathroom floor of her very small apartment. 2 pink lines showed up. That meant she was going to have a baby. Not just one baby. Twins. Her back pressed against the bathroom door as she slowly slid down to the floor. Her heart beat fast, and her mind was full of questions. How could this be happening? The father of the babies was Cassian Thorne, the richest man in all of New York City. He was a billionaire, powerful and famous. Alara had spent only one night with him. After that night, she ran away from his penthouse apartment like Cinderella at midnight, leaving behind only the memory of his strong arms and his sweet kisses. But what was even more surprising was what happened 6 months later. When the twins were born, Cassian came to the hospital. He fell down to his knees, tears falling down his face. He held his babies close for the very first time and whispered words Alara never thought she would hear. Alara, I've been such a fool. I love you. I've loved you since the very moment you came into my life. I will spend the rest of my life showing you that I deserve you and our babies. Have you ever made a choice in a moment of strong feelings that changed your life forever? Have you ever felt like you didn't belong in someone's world, so you ran away, even when your heart wanted you to stay? This is a story about surprises, hard choices, and discovering that real love doesn't care about money, power, or status. But here's the question that will stay with you through this story. When you have to choose between protecting your heart or taking a scary leap toward love and dreams, what would you do? Would you take the safe road that feels small and quiet, or would you take the risky leap that could give you everything you ever wished for? If you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere but your heart told you to stay, this story is for you. 3 months earlier, Alara Vance stood in front of her cracked bathroom mirror. She was putting on makeup, but her hands shook a little because she was so tired. She was only 23 years old, but she carried herself with quiet pride. Even though she was poor and struggled every day, her spirit was strong. Her reflection showed a young woman with warm brown eyes that shined with determination. Her chestnut brown hair caught the light, even in her tiny, dim apartment. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, smoothing down the simple black dress she had borrowed from her best friend, Zara. Tonight was special. Tonight, her artwork would be shown at the Metropolitan Charity Auction, one of the most important art events in New York. Her professor was sick, so Alara had to go and represent her small art gallery all by herself. She had spent months painting the 3 watercolor pictures she was bringing tonight. The subway ride to Manhattan's Upper East Side felt like going to another planet. Alara clutched her art portfolio tightly as the train filled with people wearing fancy designer clothes. They spoke in languages she barely knew and talked about stock markets and holiday homes in the Hamptons. Alara didn't belong in their world. Her real world was her little studio apartment, where she painted under cheap lamps and lived on ramen noodles. But her dreams had kept her alive through tough times. She had grown up in foster homes. She had worked in jobs that didn't pay much, yet she always believed she could be something more. When she reached the Meridian Hotel, it looked like a golden palace. Lights sparkled everywhere, brighter than she had ever seen. Alara took a deep breath and stood tall. She deserved to be here. Her art had earned her this moment. Inside, the ballroom was like a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers glowed, women in beautiful gowns sparkled with jewelry, men in tuxedos talked about business, politics, and power. Servers walked around with trays of champagne. Alara thought one glass of champagne probably cost more than all her groceries for a week. "Excuse me, are you with the Meridian Gallery?" a deep, powerful voice asked. Alara turned and her words got stuck in her throat. The man standing before her seemed to make the air change. He was tall, strong, and confident. His dark hair was perfect, and his green eyes seemed to see right into her soul. His tuxedo fit him like it was made just for him. Everything about him showed money, authority, and danger. Yes, yes, I'm representing them tonight, Alara said, keeping her voice steady even though her heart was racing. Cassian Thorne, he said, holding out his hand with a smile that seemed to light up the whole room. The moment Alara touched his hand, it felt like lightning shot through her. His hand was warm, strong, and calloused, showing he wasn't just a spoiled, rich man. He held her hand a little longer than polite. Alara knew exactly who he was. Cassian Thorne, the CEO of Thorne Industries. He was worth more than some small countries. He was known for being ruthless in business and for dating many beautiful women who appeared in newspapers for a short time before disappearing. I'm very interested in the watercolor series you brought, he said, his eyes never leaving her face. The emotion in those pieces is extraordinary. Alara blushed. Those are actually my paintings. I'm Alara Vance. Cassian looked surprised, then very interested. The artist herself. Your work is amazing. There is so much raw emotion in it, something many artists never achieve. Alara searched his voice for any fake flattery. She was used to rich people treating artists like decorations, but Cassian's words seemed real. He listened carefully as she explained her art, her technique, and her inspiration. The way you capture light, Cassian said softly as they talked about her sunrise painting, it's like you're painting hope itself. That's exactly what I was trying to do, Alara said, shocked that he understood. Most people just saw a simple sunrise. I'm not most people, Cassian said, his voice lowering in a way that made her stomach flutter. They talked all evening. Cassian stayed close to her, asking thoughtful questions about her life and dreams. For the first time in her life, Alara felt truly seen. When the auction began, Cassian bid on all her paintings. He paid huge amounts of money, much more than anyone else. Alara's head spun. You didn't need to do that, she whispered when the auctioneer closed the sale. I wanted to, Cassian replied. Besides, they're an investment. One day you'll be famous, and I'll be proud to say I saw it first. His confidence in her future made Alara's chest fill with hope. Would you like some air? Cassian asked, leaning close to her ear. They stepped onto the hotel terrace, which overlooked Central Park. The city lights looked like stars scattered on black velvet. The soft smell of jasmine filled the spring air. Alara felt a new kind of courage, maybe from the champagne. Thank you for buying my paintings, she said, leaning on the railing. But I think you paid way too much. Cassian moved closer. His voice was low and strong. I never overpay for things that matter to me. His eyes were fixed on her lips. The air between them felt hot, like a storm was coming. Alara, he said her name like it was the most special word in the world. Tell me I'm not imagining this feeling between us. Alara didn't answer with words. Instead, she stood on her toes and kissed him. Their first kiss was soft, like a question. But when she sighed against his mouth, Cassian's control snapped. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her with fiery passion. Come home with me, he whispered, breathing hard. Please, Alara, I need to touch you to show you how beautiful you are. Her mind told her to run. She knew stories of rich men and poor women that ended in heartbreak, but her body and heart wanted him. Yes, she whispered. His penthouse was like a castle in the sky. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed all of New York. But Alara barely noticed the wealth. Cassian pressed her against the elevator doors, kissing her hungrily. Are you sure? He asked, his forehead resting against hers. Because once I have you, Alara, I'll never be able to let you go. His honesty broke her last bit of fear. I've never been more sure of anything, she said, her fingers trembling as she opened his shirt. He lifted her easily in his arms and carried her to his bedroom. Moonlight shone on the silk sheets. He laid her down gently, his eyes full of wonder as he undressed her. You're incredible, he whispered. Perfect. When she shyly reached to remove her bra, he stopped her gently. Let me, he said. His touch was tender, almost worshipful. Tears pricked Alara's eyes at his gentleness. I should tell you something, she whispered as he laid her back against the soft sheets. Alara had never been with anyone before. When she told Cassian this, he stopped moving and looked deep into her eyes. His green eyes were so strong and full of feelings that she felt like he could see right into her heart. "You're telling me you're a virgin?" he asked softly. Alara nodded, her cheeks turning red. She felt shy and worried he might not want her anymore. But Cassian shook his head and whispered, "If that changes anything, it changes everything. It means I will treat you like the most special person in the world. It means your first time will be perfect because you deserve nothing less than perfection." Then he kissed her and touched her gently, slowly, and with so much care that Alara felt like she was floating. He made her feel things she never knew were possible. She gasped, shivered, and held on to him as he showed her how much she meant to him. "Cassian, please," she whispered, her nails digging into his shoulders as her body shook with feelings she couldn't control. "Not yet, my beautiful Alara," he murmured against her neck, his hands moving with tenderness. "I want you to feel joy first. I want to hold you while you fall apart in my arms." When Alara finally reached that point, it felt like a giant wave crashing over her. She cried out his name, unable to stop the flood of happiness and fire inside her. Cassian kissed her deeply afterward, then carefully placed himself above her. "This might hurt for a moment," he warned, his voice tight as he tried to stay gentle. "But it gets better. So much better." Alara nodded, trusting him with her whole heart. Slowly, he entered her, inch by inch, until she felt completely filled. There was a brief sting that made her gasp, but soon it turned into something amazing, like the deepest connection she had ever known. As they moved together, it didn't just feel like bodies, it felt like souls joining. Alara finally understood why people wrote poems about love, why people fought wars for it, why they gave up everything. This was not just pleasure, this was love. They moved as if they had always been meant for each other. When Cassian touched her again in the right spot, she cried out and clung to him as both of them reached the highest point together. Afterward, they lay tangled in his soft sheets. Cassian held her tightly as if he never wanted to let go. Alara felt different now. She was no longer the shy girl who had walked into his penthouse. She was a woman who had been loved, cherished, and completely claimed. "Stay," Cassian whispered into her hair as sleep pulled them down. "Don't disappear on me, Alara. Promise me you'll be here when I wake up." But when the sun rose, Alara was filled with fear. She thought about how different their lives were. He was a billionaire CEO, and she was just a struggling artist from Brooklyn. Could something real ever come from this? Quietly, before he woke up, she got dressed. She left only a note on his pillow. "Thank you for a beautiful evening. But we live in different worlds. Some moments are meant to stay as beautiful memories." By the time Cassian reached for her in the morning, Alara was already gone. She told herself that one night was enough, but she was wrong. The ache in her chest only grew stronger every day. 6 weeks later, Alara stood in her tiny bathroom, staring at a test with 2 pink lines. Her hands shook. Her heart raced. She was pregnant, and not with 1 baby, 2. At the doctor's office, Dr. Evans, a kind woman in her 50s, smiled at her. "Congratulations, Miss Vance," she said warmly. "You are about 8 weeks pregnant with twins." "Twins?" Alara whispered, shocked. The word echoed in her head like a bell. 2 tiny lives, both from that one night with Cassian. "The babies look healthy," Dr. Evans continued, "but we'll need to watch more carefully since twin pregnancies need extra care." Alara nodded, but her heart was pounding. She left the office clutching the black and white ultrasound pictures, her mind spinning. How would she raise twins alone? How could she pay for their care when her art gallery job barely covered rent? And most of all, should Cassian know? Did he deserve to know? At home, she curled on her old couch, staring at the photos. Her phone buzzed with a message from her best friend Zara. "Coffee later. You've been weird. I'm worried." Alara typed back, "Rain check, not feeling well." She couldn't tell Zara yet, not until she figured things out herself. But a week later, Zara cornered her at the gallery. "You look terrible," Zara said bluntly. "What's going on? Are you sick? Tell me." Alara looked around, then pulled Zara into the back office. Her voice shook. "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise not to judge me. Promise to keep it secret." Zara nodded. "Of course. Always." The words tumbled out about the auction, Cassian, their night together, and now the pregnancy. Zara's eyes widened with every word. When Alara finished, Zara whispered, "Holy crap, you're pregnant with Cassian Thorne's twins?" "The Cassian Thorne?" "Keep your voice down," Alara hissed. "I don't know what to do, Zara. I haven't told him. What if he thinks I trapped him? What if he thinks I'm after his money? Or worse, what if he tries to take the babies away?" Zara took Alara's hands. "Listen, he has a right to know. These are his children too. He deserves a chance to be their father, and those babies deserve to know him. But what if he rejects us?" Alara whispered, tears in her eyes. "You won't know until you try," Zara said gently. "But hiding this isn't fair to you, him, or the babies." That evening, Alara gathered all her courage and went to Thorne Industries. The building was tall and shining, full of glass and steel like a giant symbol of power. Inside, the lobby sparkled with marble floors and expensive art. At the front desk, a glamorous receptionist looked at Alara's plain dress and nervous face with disdain. "I need to see Cassian Thorne," Alara said, trying to sound brave even though her heart was racing. "Do you have an appointment?" the woman asked coldly. "No, but it's urgent. Please tell him Alara Vance is here to see him." The receptionist raised her eyebrows. "Mr. Thorne does not take unscheduled meetings. He's fully booked for 3 months. You can leave a message." "Just tell him I'm here," Alara said firmly, desperation giving her strength. "Please, you'll want to see me." Alara sat in the waiting room of a big, tall building. She had come here to see Cassian Thorne, the very rich and powerful man she once spent a night with. The receptionist had been cold at first, but after a quiet phone call, her face softened just a little. "Top floor," the woman finally said. "His assistant will meet you at the elevator." The elevator ride felt like traveling to another world. Every floor she passed took her farther away from her simple life and closer to Cassian's world of money and power. When the doors opened, a tall woman in a perfect suit stood waiting. She looked polite, but also a little scary. "Miss Vance, I'm Gwen, Mr. Thorne's assistant," she said in a cool voice. "He's finishing a meeting, but you may wait in his office." Cassian's office looked exactly like Alara imagined. Huge windows showing the whole city, shiny expensive furniture, and pictures on the wall of his many awards and successes. Alara sat on the edge of a leather chair, nervous, practicing the words she needed to say. But the moment the door opened, her thoughts vanished. Cassian entered like a storm. His presence filled the room. He was even more handsome than she remembered. His sharp suit showed his strong body, and his green eyes looked straight into hers. They made her feel both seen and vulnerable at the same time. "Alara," he said. Her name sounded warm and gentle on his lips. His voice carried surprise, happiness, and maybe even relief. "I was beginning to think you were just a beautiful dream." He moved toward her with smooth, confident steps. Alara quickly stood up, trying to keep distance so she wouldn't lose control of her emotions. All the memories of their night together came rushing back, the touches, the kisses, the whispered words. She forced herself to speak. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice stayed calm, even though her heart was racing. Something in her tone stopped him. His smile faded and his eyes turned guarded. He pulled up his professional mask. "That sounds serious," he said. "Please, sit. Tell me what's brought you here." Instead of sitting, Alara walked to the windows. She looked out at the millions of people living their lives below. Her own life, she knew, was about to change forever. "That night we spent together," she began carefully, "it had consequences." The silence after her words felt heavy, stretching between them. Finally, she turned to face him. His face was blank, hiding every emotion. "What kind of consequences?" he asked in a flat voice. Ilara's hand moved protectively to her stomach. The motion was automatic now. "I'm pregnant, Cassian, 8 weeks along, with twins." Her words exploded into the air. Cassian's face flickered with disbelief, shock, even panic before becoming unreadable again. "You're sure they're mine?" he asked quietly. The question hurt like a slap. Ilara's cheeks burned red. "You were my first, Cassian, my only. You are the only man I've ever been with." Cassian ran his hand through his neat hair, the first crack in his calm mask. This is unexpected," he said slowly. "I'm not here for money or a proposal," Ilara replied. "I just thought you had the right to know." Cassian walked to his desk and pressed his hands against it as if steadying himself. "What do you want from me, Ilara?" The question pierced her heart. What did she want? She wanted his love, his support, his presence in their children's lives. But all of it felt impossible in this office, in his world. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "I'm still figuring it out, but these are your children too. I hoped." "You hoped what?" His voice was cold now, businesslike. The tender lover she remembered was gone, replaced by the powerful CEO. "That I'd sweep you off your feet and play family? I don't do families, Ilara. I don't do relationships. And I don't do accidents like this." Each word broke her heart. He was no longer the man who had made her feel loved and cherished that night. He was the ruthless Cassian the world respected and feared. "I understand," she whispered. She walked toward the door, holding her head high, refusing to cry. "I told you, I won't contact you again." "Wait," Cassian commanded. His strong voice froze her. "We need to talk about practical things, medical care, expenses, legal rights for the children." "I can handle my own expenses," Ilara said quickly. "Don't be ridiculous," he snapped. "They are my children too. I'll have my lawyers set up support agreements." "I don't want your money, Cassian," she said firmly. His laugh was bitter. "Money is all I can give, Ilara. It's the only thing I'm good at." For a moment, Ilara saw a flicker of pain in his eyes, a man who truly believed his only worth came from money. "That's not true," she said gently. "The man I was with that night was real and kind. You made me feel like the only woman in the world." A spark flickered in his eyes, but then the walls came back. "That was one night, Ilara. This is reality." Her hope finally crumbled. "Then we understand each other," she said quietly, leaving his office with dignity, though her heart was breaking. In the elevator, tears finally fell. She promised herself then she would raise her babies alone. They would know they were loved, even if their father never loved them. 3 months passed quickly. Ilara went to many doctor visits, dealt with morning sickness, and worked hard to prepare for her twins. Her tiny apartment grew smaller with every baby item that filled it. Her easel got pushed into the corner so a crib could fit. Her best friend Zara bought it, calling herself the aunt. "It's not charity," Zara said firmly as she built the crib. "It's love. And since their father is too blind to see what he's missing, I'll spoil them enough for both of us." Ilara worked harder than ever, painting for local businesses and teaching art at the community center. At 19 weeks, she felt the twins moving inside her, tiny kicks that filled her with joy. She kept her promise and didn't reach out to Cassian, but she couldn't avoid seeing his face in magazines and newspapers. He looked perfect as always, handsome and untouchable. Every photo reminded her of the wall between them. Still, Ilara grew stronger. She was no longer the frightened girl who had run from his office. She knew her worth now. She was building a life for her children. Then, one Tuesday evening, there was a knock at her door. A woman stood outside wearing a fancy coat and holding an envelope. "Miss Vance? I'm Simone Reed, a lawyer for Mr. Cassian Thorne." Ilara's stomach tightened. "If this is about money, I already told him I don't want it." "Actually," Simone said politely, "this is about something else. Mr. Thorne wants permission to attend your next doctor appointment. He wants to see the ultrasound and hear about the babies." Ilara was stunned. After months of silence, Cassian suddenly wanted to be involved. Why now? She asked, her voice full of both hope and doubt. I can't speak for his reasons, Simone said kindly, but he asked me to tell you he understands if you say no. Still, he hopes you'll give him the chance. Alara stared at the letter. Cassian's signature was bold at the bottom. She wanted to refuse, to protect her heart. But another part of her whispered, people can change. Maybe he finally realized what they had created together. My next appointment is Thursday at 2 p.m., Alara said slowly. Dr. Evans's office, East 74th Street. He'll be there, Simone assured her. Thursday came. The sky was gray and rainy, just like Alara's mood. She sat nervously in the waiting room, her heart beating fast. When Cassian walked in, he looked different. His perfect appearance was slightly messy. His suit had wrinkles, his hair was tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it. Their eyes met. And for the first time, Alara saw something she never expected in Cassian Thorne's gaze. Vulnerability. Alara, he said softly, walking toward her. Thank you for coming, Alara said softly. These are my children too, she added, which had become her usual answer whenever people asked why Cassian was there. You have the right to know how they're growing. The room felt smaller with Cassian inside. He wore his fancy, perfectly fitted suit like he was ready for an important meeting. But this time, his eyes weren't on business papers. They were on the screen of the ultrasound machine. Dr. Evans smiled warmly. Let's see how your babies are doing, she said, spreading cool gel on Alara's round belly. She moved the probe, and suddenly the room filled with two fast, steady sounds. Thump, 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 thump. Those are your baby's heartbeats, Dr. Evans explained. Here's baby A, and here's baby B. Both are perfect for 20 weeks. Alara looked at Cassian. For the first time, she saw him truly see his children, not just as an idea or a problem, but as real little lives. His strong, calm face cracked. His breath caught. His hands shook before he pressed them together tightly. They're real, he whispered to himself. Very real, Dr. Evans said with a smile she only gave to fathers seeing their children for the first time. And very healthy. Would you like to know the genders? Alara looked at Cassian. His usual serious mask was gone. Wonder filled his face. Do you want to know? She asked. Yes, he answered quickly, his voice full of emotion. I want to know everything about them. Congratulations, Dr. Evans said kindly. You're having a boy and a girl. Both are healthy and growing right on time. Cassian reached for Alara's hand without thinking, his fingers laced with hers, tight and full of feeling. The touch sent sparks through Alara's heart. She told herself it was just for the children's sake, but inside she knew it wasn't the full truth. Later, standing together in the hospital lobby, the closeness faded into the usual uncertainty between them. Thank you, Cassian said softly, for letting me be there today, for letting me see them. They deserve to have their father know them, Alara replied simply. He looked at her with the same intense eyes that once made her feel like she was his whole world. Would you have dinner with me tonight? He asked. There are things I need to say, things I should have said months ago. Alara's heart warned her to be careful. He had broken it before, but she remembered the way he had looked at their babies with love. Just dinner, she said firmly, and just talking. Just dinner, he agreed, though his voice hinted at more. The restaurant he chose was quiet and elegant, the kind of place made for talking. Cassian seemed different, less like a CEO, more like a man who had finally let his guard down. I've been thinking about what you said that day, he began, holding his wine glass tightly, about the man you spent the night with being real, the man who treated you differently than the one in the office. Alara waited, knowing this was important. I built walls around myself for years, he admitted. I kept people away so they couldn't hurt me, but with you, those walls fell. That night, you saw the real me. You ran, Alara reminded him gently. You pushed me away. You ran too, he said softly, because it all felt too big, too complicated. You were protecting yourself, weren't you? His words cut to the truth. Alara stayed quiet. My point is, Cassian leaned closer, we made something beautiful together that night. Not just the babies, a connection, something I haven't found anywhere else. Alara's heart pounded. She knew he was right. There is no us, Cassian, she whispered. You made that clear when I told you about the pregnancy. I was wrong, he said, his voice breaking. I was scared. I used cruelty as a shield, but the truth is, I fell in love with you that first night, and every day without you has been hell. Alara's breath caught. His words hit her like lightning. Cassian, you can't say this now. I'm 6 months pregnant. It isn't fair. I'm not saying it because you're pregnant, he insisted, placing his hand over hers. I'm saying it because I love you, and walking away from you was the worst mistake of my life. Tears spilled from Alara's eyes. I love you too, she whispered, finally letting go of the pain she had hidden. But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes the differences are too big. Then tell me what you need, he begged. Tell me what you want. I'll do anything. Tear down every wall. I just need to know this is real. Alara's voice trembled. I need to know you want me for me. Not just for the babies. Not just because of duty. Cassian moved beside her, cupping her face. I want everything with you, Alara. Marriage, family, growing old together, a life we build side by side. I want to deserve you. When he kissed her, soft and full of promise, her walls crumbled. Come home with me, he whispered. Let me spend my life proving how much you mean to me. That night they went to his penthouse. The drive was filled with sparks and quiet touches. In the elevator, he kissed her with hunger and regret. I've missed you so much, he murmured. Every night I dreamed of holding you again, of telling you I was sorry. In his bedroom, they undressed slowly, tenderly. He touched her with awe, his eyes shining at her pregnant body. You're even more beautiful, he whispered, resting his hand on her belly, carrying my babies, glowing with life. He kissed her, worshiping every part of her. Their love was slow, tender, full of whispered promises. I want to feel them, he breathed, placing his hand on her stomach. There, that was a kick, Alara gasped. Dorian, Cassian said, testing the name she'd chosen. And Serafina, Alara reminded him. I remember everything, he whispered. That was the day I realized what I had lost. They moved together like two souls made for each other. When it ended, they lay tangled in the sheets. Marry me, Cassian said suddenly, his voice steady. Not because of the babies, but because I can't imagine life without you. Yes, Alara whispered, sealing their future with a kiss. The next weeks were busy. Wedding planning, doctor visits, setting up the nursery. Cassian didn't miss a single moment. You don't have to do all this, Alara said as he built the second crib, sweat on his forehead. I want to, he said firmly. I missed the first half of this pregnancy. I won't miss another moment. Their wedding was small and beautiful, held in a garden. Alara wore a simple dress for her growing belly. Cassian cried when he saw her. You look like everything I never knew I wanted, he whispered. Their vows were full of love. When they kissed as husband and wife, autumn leaves fell like confetti. At 32 weeks, Alara woke with strong pains. Cassian, she gasped. He found her in the bathroom, gripping the sink. Another contraction shook her body. We're going to the hospital, he said firmly, grabbing his phone to call Dr. Evans. Now. The drive through Manhattan blurred in sirens and traffic. Cassian held her hand the whole way, his calm voice guiding her through each contraction. At the hospital, Alara and Cassian were taken to a quiet room. Dr. Evans checked Alara carefully with kind eyes and said with a smile, The babies want to come out now. This is happening, ready or not. Alara's pain grew stronger and faster. Cassian never left her side. He held her hand tightly, like an anchor in a storm, helping her feel safe. Soon, their first baby arrived, a tiny, perfect girl with loud, healthy cries. Cassian cried too, happy tears rolling down his cheeks. She's so beautiful, he whispered in amazement. Look at our daughter, Alara. Look what we made. 20 minutes later, their second baby came into the world. a little boy, smaller than his sister but just as perfect. Equally special, equally a miracle, the doctor said warmly. When both babies were placed in their arms, Alara and Cassian looked at each other across the tiny bundles. In that moment, they saw their whole future shining in each other's eyes. "Thank you," Cassian whispered, gently touching Serafina's cheek with his finger. "Thank you for believing in us, for giving me the family I never knew I needed." The first months with the babies were busy, messy, and beautiful. There were midnight feedings, diaper changes, and tired eyes. But there was also deep love every time they watched their children grow and change. Cassian proved to be a wonderful father. He stayed patient when the babies cried at night and helped with everything. "I never knew," he told Alara one evening as they watched Serafina and Dorian sleeping in their cribs. "I never knew how complete my life would feel with you and them." Alara returned to her art, her heart full of joy. Her new paintings showed happy colors and love. Cassian changed his work life so he could spend more time with his family. He discovered that success was not just about money, but about laughter, hugs, and the smiles of his wife and children. As the twins grew into toddlers, their personalities began to shine. Serafina was bold and curious, just like her father. Dorian was gentle and creative, just like his mother. Cassian loved their differences. He encouraged both of them, helping them grow in their own ways, while also creating family traditions that kept them close. One Sunday morning, Alara and Cassian sat on a garden bench at their new home, a lovely brownstone with both elegance and warmth. Their 3-year-old twins played happily in the garden. Alara asked quietly, "Do you ever regret it, the way everything happened? The accident that started it all?" Cassian grew serious. "I regret that it took me so long to grow up enough to deserve you," he said honestly. "But I don't regret anything that brought us here. Every mistake, every tear, every hard moment was worth it for this life with you." That evening, while tucking the twins into bed, Serafina looked at her father with serious eyes. "Daddy, tell us the story about how you and Mommy met." Cassian glanced at Alara, sharing a knowing smile. He understood that one day their children would ask even harder questions about their unusual beginning. But tonight, he simply said, "Well, Princess, it all started at a party. Mommy's beautiful paintings caught Daddy's eye." "Was it love at first sight?" Dorian asked curiously, his artistic heart loving romantic stories. "Something like that," Cassian replied, his eyes meeting Alara's across their children's beds. "Sometimes the best things in life happen when you don't expect them, and sometimes you have to be brave enough to give people a chance, even when they seem very different from you." "The most important thing," Alara added, smoothing Serafina's hair, "is that love isn't about having everything perfect at the start. Love means growing together, forgiving mistakes, and building something beautiful even when it feels impossible." Years later, when Serafina and Dorian were old enough, they would learn the full story. They would understand that love often begins with passion, but grows strong through commitment. They would learn that some families start with accidents, but stay together through choice and intention. And they would learn that courage and trust are what turn attraction into the kind of love that lasts forever. If Alara and Cassian's story inspires you, Dr. Phillips reminds you to believe in true love. Sometimes the most beautiful endings come from the most unexpected beginnings. In her bright art studio at home, Alara painted scenes of their life. Cassian, sleeping, the children's first steps, family moments full of love. Her art, once filled with struggle, now overflowed with joy. "You still create magic," Cassian said one day, hugging her from behind as they watched the twins build towers with blocks. "And you still help me see beauty in everyday moments," Alara replied, leaning against him. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" she asked softly. "I hoped," Cassian admitted. "Even when I was scared and stubborn, I knew deep inside that what we had was worth fighting for." Their love story became famous among their friends. People called them the billionaire and the artist who chose each other against all odds. But to Alara and Cassian, it was simply their life, built day by day with small acts of love and big acts of faith. They passed on lessons to their children and anyone who listened. That being yourself attracts true love more than pretending. That being open, even when it's scary, leads to closeness. That real love means supporting each other's dreams while creating shared ones. That forgiveness is important for others and yourself. And most of all, that family isn't only about blood. Family is about showing up every day with love and care. At night, when the house grew quiet, Alara thought about her journey. She had gone from a scared artist who didn't dare to dream big to a woman who knew her worth. Cassian had gone from a billionaire chasing success to a man who knew the greatest treasure was love. Their story lived on in everyday moments. Cassian teaching Dorian about business, Alara guiding Seraphina's art, the way they still held hands in sleep, still felt butterflies when they looked at each other. Sometimes late at night, they thought back to the first night that started it all. They marveled at the courage it took to trust a stranger, to believe in a connection that seemed impossible. Their twins had begun as an accident, but became the greatest gift of their lives. Alara and Cassian learned that the best love stories don't follow perfect plans. The best love stories grow through mistakes, courage, and the magic of choosing each other every day. Because sometimes the most unplanned things, like unexpected twins, become the greatest blessings. Their story shows the world that true love is real. It can change lives. It can turn one night into a lifetime of joy, trust, and family. And maybe your own love story is just one brave choice away.